You're watching NBC 5 Today at 6.
Terror in Orlando as a lone gunman opens fire inside a packed nightclub. More than 24 hours later, families and friends still await word on the victims.
I'm hoping that they were running out and they lost their phone or their phone broke.
As the FBI searches the suspect's home for clues, former co-workers tell what they know about him.
He was scary in a concerning way. And it wasn't at times, it was all the time.
Today, people across the world come together, unifying and pledging to fight back.
This department will make the sacrifices that it takes to protect this community.
And thank you for joining us on a very somber Monday morning as Orlando and indeed the entire country still dealing with the effects of the largest mass shooting in the history of the United States.
Overnight, information has continued to come into our newsroom. Here's the latest. The list of identified victims has now grown to 23 people. The Orlando Police Department has been releasing names once the family members are notified. Right now, the death toll remains at 50, another 53 injured.
Investigators worked through the night with the grim task of removing dozens of bodies from inside the Pulse Nightclub where the massacre happened. Meanwhile, FBI agents continue searching this home of the suspect, that suspect Omar Mateen.
Now, we've been telling you that there would be a press conference at 6 o'clock. That has been moved to 6:30. We do have team coverage for you, though, this morning from the scene in Orlando to right here in North Texas. We're going to get started with Katie Blakey, who joins us from South Orange Avenue in Orlando.
And Katie, looks like still a very active crime scene there behind you.
Absolutely, Mark and Deborah. I imagine it'll be active for several days as there's just so much that authorities have to process. As you can see, the sun is now up here in Orlando. We have the news choppers overhead. You have authorities here behind us, and everything centers around that Pulse Nightclub. That is where those shots rang out more than 24 hours ago, and authorities will have to work through that scene today. And as you said, we'll have to remove bodies of those who are still inside. We want to walk you through new information that came out overnight. We want you to know, like Mark said, authorities have been releasing new names as they identify those who were killed in the shooting. So far, 23 people have been identified. They range in ages from 20 to 50. The city continues to update that list. Now, the hospital is nearby. It's only about 3 blocks away from where we're at, close to the nightclub. And the hospital told loved ones that there were so many people shot that victims would be tagged as anonymous until the hospital was able to identify them. The city's also set up a hotline for families and friends to call and try and get information. And of course, as we've said, the death toll stands at 50, but that could go up. As we know, a number of people were critically injured in that shooting. As for Omar Mateen, the mastermind behind this attack, that's who police have identified. We've learned here in the last 30 minutes that ISIS on Islamic State Radio put out a statement overnight. They praised the attack. They called Mateen a brother, though they did not take direct responsibility for what happened here in Orlando, but they did boast that it was the worst terrorist attack since 9/11. Mark and Deborah, it will be another dark day here as we know so many loved ones are waiting to get information about their family members. Today we will hear more names, we will see their faces, and we will learn of their stories and what their lives were made of, and of course the legacy so many of their family members hope to leave behind in their memory. So a lot to process here, and we'll continue to bring you updates and of course wait for that press conference in another 30 minutes.
Okay, we'll be looking for new information from you, Katie, on air and also on your Twitter page. Meanwhile, our coverage comes back here where this morning we are learning about one of the victims who has ties to North Texas.
Yeah, Johnny Archer joining us now in studio with more on that. And Johnny, his name is Louis Vielma.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mark and Deborah. And we know he has family here in North Texas as well. He worked as a ride attendant for Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey at Universal Studios. And according to a Facebook page for the Harry Potter fan website, MuggleNet.com, Vielma was a big Harry Potter fan, and other fans wrote that they knew him or had encountered him on their visits to the ride and expected that the ride will be shut down today as a sign of mourning for those who worked with him. And we contacted Vielma's relatives here in North Texas, and at this point, they say they are not ready to talk about their loss. But Mark, you also mentioned that the city of Orlando released 2 additional victims' names. I have those names with me right now. That's 31-year-old Simone Adrian Carrillo Fernandez and 26-year-old Oscar Aracena Montero. 23 of the 50 victims that were killed yesterday. Mark and Deborah.
Okay, thank you very much, Johnny. 6:05 now, and overnight the FBI combed through the shooter's home in the town of Fort Pierce, Florida. Police say 29-year-old Omar Mateen drove to Orlando to carry out the attack. Then at 1 a.m. Texas time, the shooting began. By the time everything was over, 50 people were dead, 43 others injured. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll be live outside the suspect's home, where the FBI continues an investigation there as well. Meanwhile, back here at home, community leaders pledging their support for the LGBT community.
And among them is the police chief of Dallas, David Brown, who spoke about the deadly attack during a vigil in Oak Lawn last night. And NBC5's Courtney Gilmore is live now to pick up the story from there. Courtney?
Good morning to you, Deborah and Mark. Public leaders here say that the impact of this tragedy crosses into communities and into the hearts of the residents right here in Dallas. Now take a look behind me. The monument here, the Legacy of Love monument and the memorial is growing. In fact, since we've been out here, we've seen people place flowers and candles and signs. One sign reads, "Love will find a way." So a huge sign of unity here. And take a look at this video, because there was a huge sign of unity yesterday as well, as the chief of the Dallas Police Department, David Brown, marched and then met with the LGBT community and expressed his condolences for the families of the victims in the Orlando massacre. He also talked about love and protection and sacrifice. Take a listen to what he had to say.
The great love is that a person would lay down their life for their friends. That's the great love. And you are our friends, LGBT community. You are our friends. And this department will make the sacrifices that it takes to protect this community, because you are our friends. And
so in light of the growing fears and possibly concerns, the chief of police was saying that he would continue to protect the community, and that is his main focus. He wanted to ensure the community that they would be safe during these times. Back to you.
All right, so just a real united front there from Dallas leadership. Not only was Chief Brown there, you saw the mayor, Mike Rawlings, and also Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins. Right. We want to remind you, too, time now is 6:08. We are awaiting a news conference by Orlando authorities to update us on the investigation and more of what's happened in the overnight hours. That will come at 6:30. We'll carry it live here on air. If you have to leave home, remember to get that NBC DFW app to stay in the know as well.
Yeah, and as we get any information, of course, we will bring it to you. 6:08 right now. We want to get you an update on your forecast. Grant Johnston standing by, and it has been a busy morning for you as well, Grant.
Yeah, real tropical weather environment with all this humidity. We've seen some pockets of heavy rainfall. The concern here to the southeast continues to be with these flash flood warnings in effect for Navarro County, southwest Ellis, eastern Hill County, also Henderson and Freestone counties. Watch for high water down there to the southeast. You just saw from downtown Dallas, we're seeing some pockets of heavy rain right here in the Metroplex. So grab the umbrella as you step outside. This is zoomed in to Dallas. You can see a pocket of heavy rainfall right on top of downtown Dallas, extending to the southeast through Pleasant Grove and down near the Dallas Zoo. Also over here to the southwest around Duncanville, near Mountain View College, and down around Hutchins. So some isolated pockets of heavy downpours, but the more widespread activity is farther down to the south around Hillsboro. A lot of lightning with that, right where I-35 splits. And then also down here farther to the southeast where those flood advisories are in place. Palestine, Fairfield, and we have had reports of flooding in the Mejia area here with very heavy rainfall. So do watch for water on the roadways. Turn around if you encounter that. Overall, though, Dallas-Fort Worth seeing some of these pockets of rain developing right on top of us. Another disturbance in Oklahoma that'll be riding down later this afternoon, which will likely trigger more showers and thunderstorms. So 30% rain chance out the door this morning. Won't rain everywhere, but if you see it, it will be heavy. And then we'll have a little break around midday. Could see more storms flaring up later this afternoon. 92 for the high, but it's going to feel hotter with heat index in the upper 90s. Let's get a traffic check now with Crystal.
All
right, thanks, Grant. Still following the situation in Dallas on I-35E northbound. All lanes shut down as you try to head north on I-35E. You could see those delays there on the frontage road as traffic is being diverted there to the service road. This is at Empire Central. We have an accident there involving a pedestrian that was struck. We have confirmed that now. We have a crew there on the scene working to get some more information. But in the meantime, I want to talk about how you could get around this. Harry Hines is a great alternate. It's pretty easy to cut on over. You could take Inwood, you could take Market Center, Medical District, any of those streets, even Oak Lawn will take you over to Harry Hines, and you could just take that up north and then cut back over to I-35E after you get past Empire Central, and you can bypass this backup pretty easily there as you make your way north through Dallas. Let's talk about, though, for those of you who need to head out to Love Field for an early morning flight. This could slow you down, especially for those drivers who may take 114 and then cut over on Mockingbird Lane. There's going to be a lot of extra traffic in that area and congestion, so I would suggest instead of taking Mockingbird, I would suggest taking Northwest Highway on over, and that'll get you to Love Field as well. All right, we'll send it back to you, Mark and Deborah.
All right, thank you so much, Crystal. Just ahead this Monday morning, the suspected gunman in the Orlando terror attack, born in America and employed by a security firm. Federal agents zero in on his background and what motivated him to kill. We're live with what they know.
Yeah, plus the search continues at his home this morning. The FBI there. We will have a live update of that as well. It's 6:11 on NBC 5 today.
And welcome back. Time right now is 6:15. The deadly terror attack in Orlando is sparking a renewed interest in security at bars across the country. And we've asked Kat Ralph with the group Keep Denton Queer to join us this morning. And we want to say first of all, Kat, thanks for joining us. We had previously asked Kat to come in and talk with us because of a discussion that was happening in Denton last night on the debate about transgender restrooms, a training class to help people understand how to handle that. And we were just talking, you all went forward with that training last night to some degree.
We did, yeah. It was yesterday morning.
Yesterday
we did go
morning.
forward with the training, and we had a good turnout.
But quickly, with the word coming of the terror attack in Orlando, the conversation just bubbled up into some real concern about what happened. Talk to me a little bit, Kat, about what you were hearing as folks gathered yesterday.
Disbelief, I think, mostly devastation. I know it was hard for all of us to process. Still is. This could happen right here. It could be me. It could be my friends. It could be our community that's going through this.
And, and we have seen to some degree in Oak Lawn with the attacks on gay members of the community.
Absolutely.
And many of those still unsolved by police.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about also one of the things we've heard about the Pulse Nightclub in Orlando where this happened is this was a place where some individuals who hadn't yet come out to their own families could gather and feel safe and be in a place where they could be who they are without any fear.
Absolutely. I mean, historically, the bars have been the only place that the queer community can go and feel safe. They can be themselves, and now, obviously, we've progressed a little bit in our society, so we can be out. Some of us feel safe to be out, but you have events like this. You have people that were in that club that weren't out to their families, and they've been outed, you know, and whether they got to live their life, you know, being who they are, or they lost their life last night, it's just as devastating.
It is. We've heard that many of them now, of the names that have been released, the identities, most of them 50 and under, so a very young community.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate, Kat, will happen in the gay bars in our community? Will there be reinforced security?
I don't know. I think there was last night in Dallas. I think in the bigger cities you will see that, you know, but for the most part, I think you're just going to see our community getting closer, and we'll protect ourselves.
Yeah, that was my next question. What about the response that you've seen? We saw last night at Legacy of Love, Dallas to Orlando, many signs of support and unity.
Absolutely. This is our community, whether we're in the same state or not, whether we're in the same city or not, whether we're in the same country or not. The LGBT community is a tight-knit community because we have to be. And absolutely, we support everybody in Orlando.
All right. Well, Kat, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us and sharing some of what happened at that meeting yesterday. We appreciate that. All right, Mark, back over to you.
All right, Deborah, thank you, and certainly thank Kat for coming in. And we will continue to update the Orlando situation. Right now, though, we want to get it over to Grant with a look at your forecast. Busy morning for you this morning, Grant.
Well, yeah, we've had some rain that can just kind of pop up right on top of us. Here's Dallas, Love Field, and you can see certainly some wet pavement pavement. A heavy shower just passing on through. It's some heavier thunderstorms farther to the southeast, but even here in DFW, there is a decent chance that you'll encounter rain on the drive in. So grab the umbrella. 30% chance here this morning, and then a drop down to 20% toward midday. Later this afternoon, a 40% chance for the hit and miss variety. But if you do see the rain, it's going to come down quite heavy with all this moisture, all the humidity. A lot for these storms and rain showers to work with. You can see Dallas here is still seeing some pretty heavy downpours just east of Fair Park. Down south toward Hutchins, Lancaster seeing a little rain. Also Duncanville, Oak Cliff, and the Cockrell Hill area. The Mid-City is also seeing a few little pockets of rain. Fort Worth, though, dry for the time being. Denton County mostly dry. Collin County seeing a few small showers. One approaching Wiley right there. And as I expand farther to the southeast, heavier storms near Hillsboro. This one putting out a lot of lightning and very heavy rain. Getting some reports of flooding in the Mexia area. So those of you in Mexia, a heads up, and certainly watch for water on the roadways as you head out. Have flood warnings that continue for Freestone County and for Anderson County. Those of you in the Palestine area still dealing with some heavy rainfall. So as we go ahead and check the computer model, most of it will stay to the southeast, although we could see some isolated pop-up showers here in DFW this morning, but then a better chance this afternoon of seeing more thunder showers develop right on top of us with all the humidity that's in place. As we check on the day planner here, you'll see the 30% rain chance this morning, and then a 40% chance this afternoon. 92 for today's high. After today, it's back to sunshine, hot weather, mid-90s tomorrow, Wednesday into Thursday. How about Friday's high up to 98? Father's Day weekend, Saturday offers a slight rain chance. Father's Day itself, though, should be dry. Let's check back with Crystal in the traffic center.
All right, thanks, Grant. We do have a live picture coming to us now from our crew who's on the ground there at I-35E North at Empire Central, rather. And Tim Siesko and his crew are there giving us these live pictures. We do have an accident there that has all of the main lanes on I-35E North completely shut down right now. And we also have word that a pedestrian was struck in the course of this accident. So right now we are seeing delays from about Inwood as you head north on I-35E. You could use Harry Hines as an alternate. It's pretty easy to get around it, but you're definitely going to need to add some extra time, at least a half hour to get through I-35E North near Empire Central. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up our TxDOT camera now if we can. We have another accident at I-20 and Hampton Road. This is blocking 2 left lanes as you head eastbound on I-20 right now. The delays aren't too bad. We're seeing slow traffic from about Wheatland Road, but that's going to take you an extra 5 to 10 minutes to get through that area if you're headed east on I-20. All right, it is 6:21. Let's send it back to Mark and Deborah.
All right, thank you very much, Crystal. A huge investigation underway right now in Fort Worth. The reason more than 2,000 crimes that were already investigated are being investigated a second time. That's coming up.
Plus, thousands pause to honor and remember the victims of the mass shooting in Orlando. We'll look at some of those tributes and also keep you updated with the latest from the scene as NBC 5 Today continues. It is 6:22, a warm 76 degrees out there.
Welcome back. 6:25. Today, Fort Worth police will investigate whether a detective mishandled hundreds of child abuse cases. A task force will meet today to begin looking at up to 2,200 cases the detective worked on for over 14 years. This all started when 44-year-old Josiel Tercero was accused of abusing his 3 daughters in 2006. A report was made, interviews done, but the father was not arrested. Police tell us the detective initially assigned to the case did not thoroughly investigate that report. Then in March of 2016, another report of abuse was made against the father. This time, a different detective investigated and filed charges. Now, Chief Joel Fitzgerald has ordered an audit of every single case that first detective worked on.
We understand that the ball was dropped in some of these cases, but we will not stop until every single case has been reviewed.
6 detectives within the Fort Worth Police Department and 2 investigators in the District Attorney's Office will go through those cases. That initial detective's name has not been released. All right, 6:26 now, and overnight the FBI continued its search of the suspect's home in Orlando, Florida, where that horrible mass killing took place. NBC's Stephanie Gosk live there for us this morning. Stephanie, what else have you learned at this hour?
Hey, Mark, good morning. Well, law enforcement pulled out of here a couple of hours ago, so we're getting our first look at the condominium complex where Omar Mateen lived with his wife and 3-year-old child. Coming up on the Today Show, we'll have some more details. We spoke with an ex-colleague of his who worked as a security guard with him at a nearby gated community. He describes him as being angry, volatile, prone to racist rants that left this one colleague nervous. He actually reported him to supervisors, and eventually, he told us, had to quit because of him. We'll have that interview as well as sound from Mateen's ex-wife, who he was married to briefly about 8 years ago. Mark, back to you.
All right, Stephanie Gosk live for us there. Thank you, Stephanie. You can watch all of Stephanie's report coming up on the Today Show. Of course, that starts at 7 o'clock, about a half hour, right here on NBC5.
And coming up at 6:30, a touching tribute to the victims there in Orlando. The show of support and love is today's Tell Me Something Good.
Also ahead, there is a call for help this morning from doctors and hospitals in Orlando. How you can help even from here in North Texas. It's 6:28.
You're watching NBC5 Today at 6.
And at 6:30, our top story this morning, terror at the gay nightclub in Orlando. 50 dead, 53 injured, and the anguish and heartbreak continues.
Yeah, as you can see, we were told we'd get a press conference at 6:30. It's going on right now. That's the mayor of Orlando. Let's listen in.
For the work that they did all night long in making the identifications and then notifying the next of kin, and we will continue that process today. Again, we will not be defined by the act of a cowardly hater. We will be defined by how we respond, how we treat each other, and this community has already stepped up to do that. Thank you. Governor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few minutes ago, I asked the President Obama to declare a state of emergency for the state of Florida. I did that yesterday for Orlando, Orange County, and the mayor did it yesterday for the city. When you stop and think about this, we all think about, thank God it wasn't our family. But if you go through that list of family members, we have a lot of individuals from Puerto Rico. We have a wonderful Puerto Rican community. I have a young lady, KJ Morris, that just moved here from Hawaii to take care of her mother and grandmother. I have an individual Louis Velma, that works at Harry Potter, and I was just there last week. So you think these are people that we interact with every day of our lives. Our law enforcement has done a wonderful job. The Orlando Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, FDLE, the FBI did a wonderful job of getting the bodies removed from Pulse, and FDLE with the medical examiner did a great job of identifying the bodies. This is a wonderful community we live in. This is a wonderful state. We are the best melting pot in the world. We have 20 million people who live here. We'll have over 100 million people to come visit here because it's a wonderful place to both live and visit. We're going to continue to work hard to take care of these families and make sure we try to get this community back and the state back to work as quickly as we can. But right now, it's time to grieve for each family member that either lost a loved one or still has somebody in the hospital injured. Now I'll turn it over to Orlando Chief John Mines.
Good morning. I wanted to provide some more information about our initial response and subsequent rescue of many, many people. So again, we had an extra duty, off-duty officer working for Pulse Nightclub in full police uniform. At about 2 o'clock, he responded to shots fired. He did engage in a gun battle with the suspect somewhere near one of the entrances. Shortly after that, additional officers responded. Those additional officers made entry while the suspect was shooting, engaged in another gun battle with the suspect, forced him to stop shooting and retreat to the bathroom where we believed he had several hostages. At that time, we were able to save and rescue dozens and dozens of people who were injured and non-injured and get them out of the club. Things kind of stabilized based on statements made by the suspect about explosives, about possible bomb vests. We kind of secured everything, called SWAT, and we did set up for an explosive breach on the bathroom wall where we knew there were approximately 15 people in the opposing bathroom to where the suspect was with his hostages. Based on statements made by the suspect, based on information we received from the suspect and from the hostages and people inside, we believed further loss of life was imminent. I made the decision to commence the rescue operation and do the explosive breach. The explosive breach did not penetrate the wall completely. We used our armored vehicle, the Bearcat armored vehicle, to punch a hole in that wall and defeat the wall. So there's a hole in the wall about 2 feet off the ground and about 2 or 3 feet wide. We were able to rescue dozens and dozens of people that came out of that hole. The suspect came out of that hole himself, armed with a handgun and a long gun, engaged in a gun battle with officers where he was ultimately killed. So at that time, at this time, I just want to say that the OPD officers, from the initial responding officers to the SWAT officers to all the other law enforcement, acted very heroically and courageous and saved many, many, many lives during this operation. And our one officer was struck in the Kevlar helmet right above his forehead. That Kevlar helmet did save his life. I talked to him, I spoke with him at length last night. He is doing great. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Special Agent Danny Banks. I'll answer some questions.
Could you clarify if any more victims were shot when it was a hostage situation?
I'll talk about that.
So good morning. I want to talk very briefly about what our primary mission for all of us today is, and that's the identification of the victims and the notification of the family. As you heard from Mayor Dyer, we have confirmed the identity of 48 of our 49 victims. The last identity confirmation is pending right now, so we anticipate having that name here shortly. A number of those, as you've heard from the mayor, we have notified their next of kin, and that is our 100% priority mission today. As you're aware, the City of Orlando is advertising the names of those victims as we make the notification to the family member, and I'll explain to you very briefly on how that's going. We have teams of FDLE agents, OPD officers, FBI agents that we're deploying as we're identifying these victims throughout the state and really throughout the nation to identify the family members to let them know that their loved one is deceased. Once we've confirmed that, that is at the time we'll post that to our website. So I ask that everybody just respect the privacy of the family and that we will advertise those names of those victims, but only at the time that we can confirm the next of kin is notified. Again, I want to state that is the primary mission of all of us right now, to notify the family members exactly that one of their loved one is dead, and then we will advertise those names publicly to the rest of the community. So I'll turn it over to now, I believe the FBI is ready to speak. Ron Hopper. U.S. Attorney Lee Bentley.
As Mayor Dyer said, yesterday was the most horrific day in the history of Orlando. Indeed, it was the day of the largest mass shooting in the history of the United States. Terrible tragedy. First of all, on behalf of the federal government, I'd like to thank our state and local partners, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Orlando Police Department, the Orange County Sheriff's Office. The men and women of these agencies have been working tirelessly over the last day and a half. On behalf of the federal government, I'd also like to thank the governor, Senator Nelson, and all the other elected officials who've been here today for their help, for their interest in what's going on here. We're working very closely at the United States Attorney's Office with our partners at the Maine Department of Justice and the National Security Division. We're also working, of course, with the FBI and with ATF. An amazing amount has been done in just over 24 hours. As has been explained, almost all of the victims have been identified. The notification process is ongoing. We've been collecting a great amount of electronic and physical evidence. There is an ongoing criminal investigation. It is still in the early stages. We do not know yet whether anyone else will be charged in connection with this crime. I do want to let you know that we have no reason to believe that anyone connected to this crime is placing the public in imminent danger at this time, but there is an investigation of other persons. We're working as diligently as we can on that. We have teams of prosecutors as well as teams of agents working around the clock, getting search warrants, getting court orders. If anyone else was involved in this crime, they will be prosecuted. And now I'm going to turn it over to the ATF Special Agent in charge, Regina Lombardo. Thank you.
Good morning. First, I'd just like to extend, ATF's family would like to extend a heartfelt, warm appreciation for the extended visit here today. But on behalf of the ATF, we'd like to say we are here to give you their role in the investigation. We found on the scene there were 2 weapons on the scene. ATF brings that unique tracing capability to the table. We've been able to trace those weapons. The weapons have been traced to the last known purchaser, which is the shooter. One of the weapons was also, the third weapon was also found in his vehicle. We are still working on tracing that weapon as well. We would like to extend our heartfelt condolences to the victims' families, as well as the LGBT community. We are working the investigation with a team of ATF analysts, special agents. We are working together with the FBI and all our state and local partners here today. We have a team of people here that are able to provide what we can to this investigation. I'd like to now turn it over to the FBI, Special Agent in charge.
Good morning, my name is Paul Weissapel. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's field office here in Tampa, which includes the Orlando resident agency. I think yesterday you heard from Assistant Special Agent in charge Ron Hopper, who did a commendable job as the on-scene commander for the FBI. I think one of the things to take away from this, these bad events such as this, as we learned at 9/11, brings the community together, including the law enforcement community. As you see everybody represented here, we all work together from the get-go. From the time at 2 o'clock in the morning when the shooting began, everybody rallied together to work the case as one force. We have a joint terrorism task force, of which all these agencies represented that just spoke are also represented on the joint terrorism task force. So we work cases side by side. I think a lot of the investigation so far has kind of been disclosed to you. The main thing that we looked at in the very beginning is the victims. As you heard, there are 49 that are deceased, 48 have been identified. Family members of about 24 families have been notified. We also have brought down 30 victim witness specialists, and they're to work with the families to try to get them what they do need. The resources are available. Other agencies have pulled their resources and brought them down. The FBI has brought resources to bear from the Miami field office, the Atlanta field office, the Jacksonville field office, as well as Quantico, Virginia. The laboratory has sent down shooting reconstructionists, and that's kind of the next task at hand. As of last night, within 24 hours, all of the victims were removed from the Pulse bar lounge, and now we're going to be processing it with the shooting reconstruction team to get as much forensic evidence as we possibly can at that point. The investigation continues. Over the night, we've probably processed about 100 leads that were worked on by agents and task force officers combined. The task force has been up and running since the beginning of this and will continue to run. That's one of the things that all the agencies will do, is bring the resources to bear. Our focus is to get the truth and to get it to you as quickly as we can. But you have to realize there is a balancing act. A lot of what we do on investigations may become classified. Can't disclose that information. Basically ask your patience and that you bear with us in the investigation. We'll disclose what we can when we can. And you have to recognize that when we can't, it's not because we don't want to. It's because there may be prosecutions down the road. We're not sure where the leads will go. As you know, post 9/11, no stone is unturned, and that's the same today as it was then. Every terrorism case and investigation is going to be worked the same way. No stone will be left unturned, and we'll follow the leads wherever they take us. We'll brief you as best we can when we can, but you'll have to bear with us on that, and and just trust our judgment. The FBI has been in existence for over 108 years now, and we've earned the people's trust by working cases hard and being straightforward with you. And we don't want to violate that trust by giving you bogus information that 2 hours later we got to come back out and tell you that information was wrong. So we keep you abreast as best we can by giving you accurate information. And by doing that, it may take us some time to get you that accurate information. So with that, just ask you to bear with us as we move forward in the investigation. I want to do like everyone else did and commend the first responders. They actually saved lives by responding as quickly as they did. Numerous people were brought out alive and unharmed, and many more are in the hospital, hopefully to recover and begin that healing process. And that's another thing that's a bonus for this community, that it has come together, and hopefully that will maintain and stay the course. Barring that, I guess we'll take some questions.
Why is the number changed from 49 to 50 dead?
I think what some people had been given out at one point in time was the shooter was included in the number at 50. There are 49 victims. We don't really count the shooter as a victim. So that's how you got the 49. 48 of those have been identified at present. 24 of those families have been made aware of their location.
Chief, can you help us clarify one thing, if you don't mind?
We got a couple more remarks. We got a couple more remarks, and then we'll answer questions.
Good morning. This has certainly been a trying time for all of us, and I can tell you, as a native of Orlando, this is certainly touching to my family and I. I've served here in this community with the Orlando Police Department and now as Orange County Sheriff, and there's never really been a time where I've seen where the agencies at the federal, state, and local level have really come together to work. And throughout the night, our agencies have continued to work with the FBI. We have a great partnership, and I am certain that within just a short period of time, all of these victims will be able to be identified, and those families will be reunited with their loved ones, if you will. That effort is certainly going on, and so we have received tremendous outpourings of support from across the country, from our colleagues and law enforcement, and I can tell you that it's very heartwarming to all of us who wear the badge and carry the gun on a daily basis. As I have talked with some of my staff and some of the staff of the Orlando Police Department who responded yesterday to this tragedy, the men and women were certainly touched by this. Many of them saw some carnage that they would never ever see in any other location. If you think about it, this is not a war zone that we are living in. This is a civilized society, and we had to deal with something unthinkable in which 50 people, 49 victims, and an individual died yesterday, and many of these law enforcement officers had to go in and observe that. So now it's about putting our community, our nation back together, and at the same time ensuring that those individuals who had to deal with what they saw yesterday are able to come back to work and do their jobs. And so that's where I am at this point, working with all of our partners to make sure we take care of those brave souls who responded. So at this time, I believe we're turning it over to the Attorney General, is what I was told.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Attorney General Pam Bundy.
Good morning. Just to update you from last night, we have mobilized 14 of our victims advocates from Pensacola to Miami. They're all here, they're all together, they're on the ground, they're working with the FBI, with the city of Miami. We know now that of the victims, only 24 families have been notified. I know you have this number, but please repeat it, 407-246-4357. 407-246-4357. If you're a friend, a distant friend, please don't use that number. That number is for relatives, loved ones who are still attempting to identify these victims. We're here, we're prepared to help you. We have counselors, advocates, and we also have compensation counselors who can also aid with funeral expenses. if these victims' families aren't able to do so for themselves. So today, our goal, as the sheriff said, we're working together. This is about unity. This is about bringing the great city of Orlando back together, our state and our country. And thank you again to our federal, state law enforcement officers and Governor Rick Scott for standing strong with us this entire time. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you answer that one question? Can you clarify?
All right, you have been listening to just a show of force there in Orlando this morning as authorities are updating the public on what has happened in the hours since the terror attack there at the nightclub. One of the key points that we heard is there are 49 victims. We kept hearing this number 50. Authorities now clarifying that 50th, the number 50, was the suspect who was killed by law enforcement in this rampage. I think another interesting point, Mark, was we knew the suspect had 2 weapons in that nightclub.
Right.
And this morning we've now heard of a third located in his car.
Yeah, also 24 of the victims that you mentioned have been named. That it might be a little bit confusing. 48 of the 49 victims have been identified, but they don't name who those victims are until they notify the next of kin. So they've notified the next of kin on 24 of those. Until they notify the next of kin on the others, they will not name those victims.
We also heard from the police chief there talk about just the response by his officers. There was an off-duty police officer in that nightclub. That was the first gun battle with that suspect. And then as officers arrived on scene, there was a second gun battle as well. In all of this, the police chief, many of them say those first responders saved lives in these early morning hours. They are getting a lot of praise for the work they did. Also concerned too, because you heard the sheriffs there that say this is not a war zone. We live in a civilized society, and many of these first responders saw the unthinkable.
Yeah. All right, we do have team coverage of this for you this morning, and Katie Blakey is in Orlando, so we want to get down to her as well and get the latest from Katie. Katie?
Well, Mark and Deborah, we were listening to that press conference just like you were. We are here stationed along Orange Boulevard where there's a row of media, everyone processing the new information. Of course, the big headline from that was the ID of the victims, saying that they've now ID'd 48 of the 49 victims, but today they begin that daunting task of really trying to notify more than 24 families about the whereabouts of their loved ones and what happened, because we know a lot of people have been left in the dark over the last 24 hours, not knowing what happened to their loved ones, not knowing if they are okay. So that will be the big task for authorities today. We also want to point out that the Florida Governor Rick Scott had asked for an emergency declaration from President Obama. Basically what he's doing is saying, hey, we need help. That authorizes federal funding and boots on the ground to come here to Florida and to come here to Orlando to help people who are dealing with this situation, also help law enforcement. As you can imagine, the Orlando Police Department is stretched thin because of everything they've been dealing with. But again, right here behind me, the Pulse Nightclub, we heard that all of the deceased have been removed from that building, and now federal authorities are going to go in there today and reconstruct the shooting to really begin part of this investigation. We're going to have much more for you coming up a little bit later, but for now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Katie Blakey live for us there in Orlando. We will continue to check with Katie.
All right, it is 6:52 on this Monday morning. We're going to take a little break and come back and talk about the weather, because we do have some flash flooding to talk about down to the south, and Chopper 5 up early for us. And yes, the sun will rise. A little humid as you step outside this morning. More coverage coming up next.
NBC 5 weather with meteorologist Grant Johnston.
All right, welcome back. 6:55. Just can't get enough of this shot from Chopper 5. Is that an impressive perspective or what? Layered cloud cover. Chopper 5 above that low cloud deck. The sun is up, but we're not done with the rain. We've got a chance that's still hanging on here this morning, about a 30% chance as you head out this morning, and then down to a 20% chance at 11 o'clock for the drive home between 2 and 5 p.m. There's a 40% chance for a few thunderstorms redeveloping, all because of this humid, warm weather pattern that just won't let up. Nothing widespread right now. We had some showers in Dallas. Those have kind of fizzled out, but some redevelopment showing up near Valley Ranch, Capel, and then back to the northwest up around Flower Mound and Lantana. That activity is fairly well confined, but putting out some heavy rainfall. Have this little cell here that is weakening near Hillsboro. That was responsible for some real heavy rain, quite a bit of thunder and lightning, and then more widespread thunderstorm clusters south of Corsicana down toward Mejias, where we've had some reports of flooding. So be aware as you venture out, especially along Highway 84. Could be some high water. And over toward Fairfield and Palestine. In fact, a flood warning has been extended for the Palestine area here for Anderson County until 10:45. A couple other counties that are still under warnings include Freestone County, also Navarro, Southwest Ellis, and Hill County. 3 to 7 inches of rainfall has occurred in some spots, so watch for high water down there. In Dallas-Fort Worth, rain chance this morning about 30%, and then again this afternoon, so grab that umbrella as you head out. The humidity is going nowhere. 92 for the high, but with that humidity, it's going to feel hotter. Back to sunny and dry weather, though, tomorrow. Here's your 10-day forecast. Mid-90s tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. By Friday, we're up to 98, so summertime pattern kicking in. For Father's Day weekend, slight rain chance on Saturday. Father's Day at this point looking dry. Let's head over to the traffic center once again with Crystal.
All right, thanks, Grant. We still have some activity on Spur 408 northbound, just north of I-20. You can see off to the right shoulder there, that police activity. Not causing a huge delay, but traffic is slow as you head west on I-20 and trying to merge onto that Spur 408 area right there. So that's going to slow you down by about 10 minutes if you're headed up into the downtown Dallas area on Spur 408. Okay, but the big story of the morning is still I-35E northbound at Empire Central. We have an accident there. It's been going on for a couple of hours now. A pedestrian, we're told, was struck there by a vehicle, and I imagine this is going to take some time before this clears as they do their investigation. So you can see all of this traffic here on the service road. This is the northbound frontage road on I-35E. Things are very slow there. It's going to take you a while to get through this area. What I would recommend doing is trying to get onto Harry Hines and use that as an alternate. We are starting to see Harry Hines pick up in congestion as well, but that is the best alternate. If you're headed in that area, you can easily get around that accident by doing that. All right, Fort Worth, you're still looking pretty good. We're starting to see a little bit of congestion there right in the downtown area on 35W as well as I-30 eastbound, but all in all, really good for Fort Worth. One thing I do want to note, guys, we are seeing a lot of delays and cancellations at DFW Airport. Take a look at these numbers. 46 delays and 47 cancellations there at DFW. Love Field, not too bad, just a few. All right, we'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Crystal. All right, before we leave you, we want to update you with the latest information that we have on the terror at the nightclub in Orlando. This morning, we have learned that 48 of 49 victims have been identified. We've heard through yesterday and earlier this morning that number 50. Authorities saying that number, the 50th person, is the shooter who was killed in the rampage. The Orlando police chief saying that the suspect did pledge allegiance to the Islamic State and tried to negotiate with police before the bloodbath ended last night.
In addition, the governor of the state of Florida, Rick Scott, has asked the president to declare a state of emergency in the state. They had already done that for the city and the county. Having that done by the president would allow more funds from the federal government to come in.
There is much more to talk about with this, and the coverage will continue on the Today Show in just a couple of seconds. Thank you for being with us.